Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm GhostCritic. It's Sunday. It's time to review some comic books. And if you've watched my Wednesday New Comic Book Day video, you'll know exactly what books I'll be talking about this week. Only 5 books on my pull list this week, and it was one of those weeks where it was difficult to pick out a kind of pick of the week. So the one that's at the top probably wouldn't have fared as well in a better week. Before I kick off, don't forget I will be talking storylines, plot points, cliffhangers, so spoiler warning now. And don't forget, if you like the rest of this video and you're not subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button, give the video a big thumbs up, comment down below, and if you feel like it, how about sharing the video out on other social networking platforms? All the support and all the appreciation of my videos are well received, and I thank you all for sticking with me. So let's crack on with the first book on my pull list, which was issue 30 of Star Wars. Jason Aaron, LaRocca and Delgado finishing off this latest storyline. If you're a reader of Star Wars, you will know they do these kind of odd flashback, I guess, kind of storylines taken from the diaries of, I think it's Obi-Wan Kenobi. And they tell tales of past adventures from characters within the Star Wars franchise. And we've gone back and watched a story, read and looked at, I guess. A story set with Yoda. Him coming on this planet, this mountain that seems to have some sort of force-like power, and we find out that it's actually a living mountain. It has a beating heart, and there's a big kind of conclusion, I guess, to the end where Yoda takes down this mountain, which we see little bits of this. The end part of the story, which this is the kind of conclusion, is Luke Skywalker coming back to this planet many years later, I guess kind of to wrap things up. I'm not really quite sure why. And we have one of the kind of last people living there in some sort of evil persona. It's unclear really what the purpose of this final issue of the storyline was, to be fair. And it just kind of shows the ending of Yoda's story and Luke starting to kind of use his force, his Jedi powers, but not accepting that he is a Jedi. By the time you end this issue, you can see kind of where this fits in between the original New Hope film and the Empire Strikes Back, because at this point Luke Skywalker hasn't yet met Yoda, but Yoda says it's almost time. It's almost time for him to come and see me. He's almost ready. For those of you who watched my Wednesday video, you will know this is my last issue of Star Wars that I'm picking up. I'm sure the kind of really geeked out Star Wars fans, the fanatics of Star Wars, are really lapping this up. I've finally kind of come to the conclusion that Star Wars comics perhaps are not meant for me. It's not for the casual viewer of the movies, the casual reader of a Star Wars comic. You really need to be kind of really invested in these characters and know a great deal more about the universe, the wider universe as a whole, rather than just these main storylines. I wasn't a great fan of LaRocca's art on here. It was a little bit too photorealistic in parts. Certainly when it comes to the portrayal of Luke Skywalker, it felt very much like LaRocca had taken kind of pictures of Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker and kind of messed around, photoshopped, coloured over it. It was just a little bit too on the nose. I've got a comic book here. I want it to feel a little bit more comic booky. I'm not always the fan of the kind of photorealistic kind of comic books. I think the last time it was done pretty well was John Cassidy's work on Astonishing X-Men, which certainly had that feel when he was doing it right at the beginning with Joss Whedon. But I like that. They were obviously not characters that you've seen in movies. He wasn't trying to ape the kind of movie characters and make them as realistic as they could on paper. But here, as I said, just a little too much on the nose. Moving on to an image title from Eric Stevenson and Simon Gain. It's issue number 15 of They're Not Like Us, Ballisted Mirrors. And it's kind of a fake out, one of those issues that kind of fake you out at the beginning because you think things are ramped up. But at the end of it all, with all the action that takes place, the kind of, I don't know, the excitement of the scenario that you're reading, and then you find out it's just someone's dream. And you feel kind of let down. You finally think, great, this is moving forward. We're getting some excitement now. It may not make a lot of sense, but given that, you know, some of these characters can warp reality, make people see what they want to see, this could have easily happened. However, it did not. And this is the problem that I've always faced with They're Not Like Us. And having just watched Travis's video, his new comic book day video, he's told me through that this hasn't really got much longer to go. And why I'm happy to continue and finish this run is that it just kind of has fizzled out. It had a long hiatus between story arcs, and even before then, it was all kind of mishmash of confusion and chaos, and the story, while didn't need to have a linear path to follow, didn't even kind of stick to a main storyline that, you know, you could grasp onto and continue on. Most of these characters, I forget their names. I don't know who I'm really rooting for anymore. I can see there are elements of bad guys there and supposed good guys, but the good guys, they're still a bit morally iffy. So who am I meant to be cheering on? Who do I want to come out of this winning, unscathed, alive? Who knows what Eric has got in store by the time he finishes this storyline. Gain's artwork, as always, is fun. It's kind of off-kilter a little, it's kind of hip, it's indie. And the colouring, we've got the great Jodie Belair on here, as always. She really makes a lot of the pictures and the panels pop out. That's kind of what's kept me wanting to at least finish this run. It's not a title that I would say go out and buy and trade. Maybe pick up an issue or two here or there, see if you like it. If something grabs you, then continue with it. But it's not something I would personally recommend to, you know, the community at whole. And to be fair, apart from me and Travis, I don't think anyone else is reading this. Moving on to Boom Studios, issue number 31 of The Woods, James Tynion. We are focused very much on the Earthbound storyline. We have got one of our abducted teenagers from the school having somehow managed to get back to Earth, but of course the government want to cover all this up. They may not believe as such what is going on, or maybe they do, but always government doesn't want the world at large to know that there is a potential of kind of alien abduction, being taken away to planets where you're basically battling for your life. But I like the interactions of these characters here. As I've always said with The Woods, and I said it on Wednesday, there is an element of pacing that Tynion really needs to work on in keeping people's kind of interest fully there, and again invested in all your characters. There are plenty of there in here that I do like seeing, and I want them to to see it to the end and hopefully come back to Earth, be able to lead kind of normal lives. But just a great, not a great book, but an enjoyable book when Tinian is kind of like getting up to the top of his game. The colours by Michael Dianalis has been kind of standard throughout. It's very kind of colourful. There's a lot of inking going on here, which kind of makes all the pages, although there's a lot of colour there, darker than maybe they need to be. But still, this is another title that is coming to an end very soon, and I'm happy to see this run finish to the end rather than drop it now, despite my little niggles with pacing as we go along. Moving on to our penultimate book, another Image one, and it's our Paper Girls issue number 13, and we have our group of teenage girls, prehistoric times, at least I think that's where we are. And we have the girls split up at the moment. We had a very kind of emotional scene between two of them. It's one of those books that, while what happens in it, you're kind of familiar with it. You've seen it done in like movies and books and TVs before, but we have that moment where one of the girls has her period for the first time, and the other girl trying to be supportive about it, but still there's kind of like an element of uncomfortableness about it all, because they're teenagers, they're dealing with growing up, becoming women, finding their own identities. The other two girls are still trying to track the other two, who they presume are dead, but they're obviously still alive, as we know, as the reader, and they don't, so they want the final proof of all that. But there are more story elements being thrown into the mix. We have these kind of cavemen characters who have acquired technology from the future. They don't understand what it is. They're kind of using them more as kind of necklaces and jewelry. One of them wears a spaceman's hat. All this messing around with time is basically not for the good, let's put it that way. We're seeing these little kind of blisters in time, and it's starting to link back to previous storylines and events that have happened, such as the appearance of the hockey stick with the message written on, and we find in this issue who actually wrote that. And it's all that kind of, to quote Doctor Who, timey-wimey stuff, and I just don't want Brian K. Vaughan to get this not wrong, but I don't want him to make it too complicated with the whole kind of time travel stuff. It's still a great book. I enjoy the process, I guess, more than the storyline of this, pushing the characterizations of these four girls. And what they're dealing with in this completely, fracked up life that they're currently having to lead. All this time travel stuff, getting split up, bonding as friends. But it's still a great, enjoyable book that I like coming back to and seeing the next kind of adventures of the Paper Girls. So that's the penultimate book. As I said, this was a kind of like a week for comic books, and trying to find a pick of the week from all of them was a little bit difficult, but in the end I picked the book that I guess I enjoyed the most. It wasn't so much that it was the best book. I have some issues with it, but I still enjoyed it, and it gave me a feeling of what the creators want to do with this book. I am talking, of course, about Marvel's XMen Gold, issue number 1, written by Mark Guggenheim with Saif Loinstein and Martin on art. So we go back to that point about familiarity, I guess. Mark Guggenheim says at the back of this he wants to essentially take the X-Men back to basics, back to being superheroes saving the world despite the fact that the world hates them. And in their kind of, I guess, it must be a good 60, 70 year, maybe 50, 60 years of X-Men, we've had this. Instead of looking back to the history, I'm sorry to say this, I think they should be looking forward. They're in a new kind of, this is a new age of the X-Men, and as good as it is to see an almost kind of familiar X-Men team, we've got Storm, we've got Colossus, we've got Nightcrawler, we've got Kitty, we've got Wolverine in his Old Man Logan guise, and I didn't actually realise who this was until it was kind of explained in a slightly humorous way. This character here is Prestige, and I always thought, oh, I don't know who this one is. They're just throwing a new character in to kind of mix this more traditional team up, but it is actually Rachel Summers, who's changed her name, I guess, something that I didn't know about, not having read an X title for a while now that has her in the team. But they do a good job at what they do. We have the big superhero action scene right at the beginning to kind of draw all the new readers in and old readers alike. We have a group of people, onlookers, who they have just saved, but are just like, no, you're mutants, get out of here, we hate you. It's one of those books that has always been about the outsiders of society. The minorities that have been looked down upon, hated just because they're different. It's the X titles are a wonderful allegory for what is going on in the world right now and always have been. And I think instead of looking back to what has gone before, back to basics, as Guggenheim wants to do, I think they should be looking at the present, the now, and also the future to push X-Men in a new direction instead of almost retreading new ground. However, it was a lot of fun to read. The artwork was fun and action-packed, bright and colourful, well-drawn, clean, crisp depictions of these characters. There was a flavour of humour in there as well, with Kitty Pryde and, as I mentioned before, Prestige joking about her changed name from Rachel Summers, and did she call herself Phoenix at one point? I think she did. And we get, of course, the kind of climax, the big bad that they have to go and kind of dispel and get rid of. It's the new Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. These are characters that I look at and I'm not familiar with, not, as I said, not having read a great deal of X titles lately, so it should be interesting to see where this goes. With the X titles, these new ones, as I said on Wednesday, for the most of them, I'm going to try the first issue of each. Next week, X-Men Blue comes out, so I'm going to try that. Weapon X also comes out, but I don't think I'm going to try that one. There's a Generation X one as well, a new run of that, which I'll try. But for this week, this made me happy as a comic book reader, I guess. As I said, few niggles, but overall an enjoyable read, which could potentially be on my pull list next time it comes out. So they're my books this week. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you very soon. Watch my video on Wednesday, my new comic book day video, because I've got some news in there which I'm going to hold back just a few more days just to tease you in. Don't forget to subscribe, like and comment down there, and share. It's all about the sharing. Until next week, thank you. Bye bye.